Today's CASPer questions and our expert analysis and responses will help you tackle any CASPer Personal question that may come your way during the test. We will cover CASPer Personal answer strategies and give you expert analysis on how to answer each follow-up question. Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm an admissions associate here at BeMo. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe on whatever social media channel you're watching this from now so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. If you would like us to help you get ready for CASPer, visit CASPerTestPrep.com to schedule your free initial consultation. As a quick tip, check out the timestamps in the description of this video to navigate to specific sections of the video that you're interested in. Here's what we're going to cover. How to structure your answers to CASPer Personal Questions, sample CASPer Personal Questions, and our expert response. By the way, we're giving away $50 Amazon gift cards every week to the best comments and questions, so comment below for a chance to win. There's this one thing that will help dramatically increase your CASPer score. I'll explain in the end of the video, so keep watching to find out. Now let's get started. Personal CASPer prompts you may face can sometimes be statements, quotes, or scenarios asking you to reflect on whether a similar situation has happened to you. Many follow-up CASPer questions will ask you to talk about times when you had to deal with similar issues that are presented in a scenario. They are meant to assess how you would react in certain situations. The question may deal with professional boundaries, ethical and moral dilemmas, conflict resolutions, and other issues. Your answer should demonstrate to the evaluator that you know how to handle yourself in a situation. When you answer personal questions, remember these steps. Number 1, provide a very short context about the situation you're writing about. Number 2, write a few sentences demonstrating specific actions, behaviors, or tasks you performed to deal with the situation. What did you do to fix the problem? How did you overcome a challenge? Use concrete examples. Number 3, write about what you learned from dealing with the situation. So let's examine a sample personal CASPer prompt and follow-up questions. Here's the prompt. From time to time, we all make decisions we regret. Whether bound by less than ideal circumstances, lack of resources to make the best decisions, or lack of foresight or maturity, everyone has made a bad or unfortunate decision in their lives. Here's the questions. Number 1, can you reflect on a decision you've made that you later regretted? Number 2, how can one move past or learn from such regret? And number 3, did you ever make what seemed like a bad decision only to later learn that it was still the best decision at the time? Reflect on this. Take a moment to reflect on these questions. Now let's get to expert responses to these follow-up questions. When I first entered university as an undergraduate, I was certain that I wanted to go into psychology. Though I'd had little experience in the field, studying the mind, understanding people's motivations, and learning about mental illness were all fascinating prospects. When I was very young, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, but later developed hand tremors, making such work out of the question. Psychology seemed the next best thing. When I got to university, however, I was struck by the sheer variety of subjects and disciplines, many of which I didn't even know existed previously. As well, as I went through 2 years of my psychology major, I found that the field was quite different than I'd assumed. It didn't hold my attention or interest as much as some of the electives I'd taken, and I ended up spending my 3rd year just floating around, taking a wide array of classes to see what sparked my passion, while still registered as a psychology major. Eventually, I found a different discipline that asked the same kinds of questions that interested me, but from different perspectives. The academic study of religion, which I ended up pursuing as my major after that. Because I switched majors at the end of my 3rd year, I had to take an additional year to complete my BA. I regretted the time I felt I'd wasted in pursuing something else and wished I'd looked more carefully at the variety of disciplines available rather than going into university as a direct admissions into the psychology major. If I'd spent my 1st year floating around rather than my 3rd, I probably could have completed my degree in the initially intended time. Once I declared my new major, I had to take on a very heavy course load for years 4 and 5 of my undergrad. I took 5 courses each term, even during the summer, while also working full-time. However, because I genuinely loved what I was doing, I made Dean's List with highest honors each of those terms and brought my GPA up nearly a whole point. I admittedly hadn't been doing well in psychology. Those were 2 very difficult years, but I learned a lot about myself, the university, and the world during that time. Most importantly, I learned that when I'm truly passionate and invested in something, I will do whatever it takes to realize and reach my goals. And I had tangible evidence to back that up. I'd never worked as hard as I worked those 2 years, but instead of feeling run down or exhausted, I felt exhilarated and found a path that I would end up following for the rest of my academic life. A quick note, while the above story may not reflect your experience, particularly if you're still completing your undergrad, I've intentionally offered a story from a different perspective. I did this because I want you to focus not just on what is said, but how the story is structured. This can be easier to do if you're working with a somewhat unfamiliar story, something you may not identify with specifically. Recall the discussion of personal questions earlier. Note the trajectory of the story here and how it works with those earlier ideas. Now, see if you can do the same with your own personal experience and narrative. Let's move on to the next question. I think the most important thing to realize is that regret is often a paralyzing emotion. While we certainly all wish we'd done things differently sometimes, dwelling on that wish rather than focusing on how to build effectively on it to make lasting change in the future can end up in self-sabotage. Focusing on regret is inherently to focus on something that simply cannot be changed, and if we don't see any actionable options available to us, we may simply do nothing. This is only going to make things worse, transforming a potential learning moment into an insurmountable hurdle. In these types of quirky personal questions, you must be able to articulate your position. Remember, do not try to write things you think your CASPer scorer wants to hear. Present a solid idea and explain why you think the way you do. Note how well this answer explains why regret is a paralyzing factor. Instead of giving into regret, the author of this answer shows how they deal with this feeling and overcome it. In retrospect, and with the benefit of hindsight, the decision noted above to throw myself into a major I didn't truly understand, not taking the time to really research what the field entailed and determine whether it matched my own interests and ambitions, was not as disastrous a decision as it seemed at the time. While I didn't end up sticking with psychology, I still learned a lot in the 2 years I pursued it actively, and the half year or so that I floated, still taking 1 or 2 courses. I realized how interested I am in how people think, their ideologies, their influences, the role of social context for ideas and resulting behaviors, etc. In a way, it was this realization that led me to my eventual major. To study religion is to study precisely those issues of ideology, influence, and social context, via motivation, myth-making, tradition, textual lenses, authority, belief, etc. As well, at the graduate level, I took several courses that looked at the intersection of psychology and religion, where my early coursework helped inform my analysis in ways not accessible to peers who had studied other things. I eventually found myself precisely where I wanted to go, even though I didn't actually know where that was when the journey began. At the time, it felt like a disaster. Now, however, I see it as more of a scenic detour with value of its own. This answer follows the answer structure we outlined earlier in this video. It's a great example of how to follow our CASPer Personal Questions strategy. This is key. To get a high CASPer, you must be able to tackle any question type. There is no way of anticipating questions you will face, so it's important to learn how to deal with types rather than singular questions. Check out our blog to learn more about CASPer questions and answer strategies. I've included a link in the description of this video so you can find the blog easily. If you would like us to help you get a high CASPer score, visit CASPerTestPrep.com to schedule your free initial consultation. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, so please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. If you have any questions about CASPer Personal Questions that I didn't cover in this video, let me know in the comments section and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Don't forget that we're giving away $50 Amazon gift cards every week to the best comments and questions, so comment below for a chance to win. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time.